Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Call. I'm Dennis Green. Tim Hankiewicz from Orchestra Iowa is back.
Hey.
Fresh from Video Games Live.
Yes, and my thumbs are tired.
Yeah, Tim, because there was a band fronting the orchestra, Tim was just able to sit in the green room and play duty.
Exactly. I'm actually more of a Half-Life guy myself, but it was great fun.
Yeah, great fun. And now, first Masterworks concert of the new year, A Lyrical Journey.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. It's straight down the plate symphonic music and featuring, I think, arguably my favorite Brahms symphony, the Fourth Symphony. I get a chance to conduct it every 8 to 10 years, and it's time again. And this is one of the pieces that even as a student, you study it like the Bible when you first become a conductor. And every time you revisit it, it's, oh my God, there's just more layers and more layers that I didn't appreciate it when I was younger. And so the more I get into this piece, the more I realize, there's a reason it's a masterwork, and I'm just thrilled to be doing it.
We always talk about the three Bs, Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms.
Correct,
but of those three, I'm just going to say as an outsider that Brahms is the one that, while we know it's a master,
right,
it doesn't bring melodies to mind quite so much like a Bach or a Beethoven does. So of the three, he's a little more of a secret passion.
Yeah, but he's actually trying to channel. He is trying to channel both Beethoven and Bach.
Oh, okay.
And especially in this piece. I'm glad you brought this up, because one thing that Bach was so great at was fusing the intellect with the soul, with a sense of religion, of spirituality. Beethoven was the one who basically the father of the modern symphony and had this great rigor about him. And Brahms is looking to these two very composers as precedent to build his own language on that. And when we get to the Fourth Symphony, he pulls out a trick that Beethoven pioneered, and that's the use of trombones. And so this is what I mean about looking to the past to create your future. The trombone, believe it or not, is a medieval instrument, and for the longest time in European circles was identified with the church, with religiosity, its look and its sound. And it was only in the time of Mozart that the trombone would be let into the opera pit because it could blast out really loud. But it was Beethoven who first used the trombone in a symphony in Beethoven 5. And he puts it at the end in the last movement because it added extra weight and sound and volume. So guess what Brahms does in his Fourth Symphony? He reserves the trombone for the last movement, just like Beethoven did, just to give it a little extra heft and weight and volume. But he also gives it melodic material that would be more akin to Bach, something called a chorale tune, which is basically a Protestant hymn. And when you hear this style, it gives a sense of the church, of religiosity. And it's a melding of the intellect with melodic invention with spirituality, the head, hand, heart, and God. And that's what Brahms is doing with great effect, especially when he uses the trombones, which is of the height of irony, because if you know any trombonists, I mean, if anybody should be struck by lightning.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it is ironic that the trombone was synonymous with religion and church music, and then when jazz came along,
it just totally destroyed it. Yes. Oh, we laugh. We love you, trombonists. But anyway, this is what Brahms is doing, and so the last movement is certainly my favorite, but the whole symphony is just filled with these melodic gems. When you hear this great composer at the height of his powers, this is arguably his greatest work.
So, if of the three Bs, the Brahms is the one you are the least familiar with, here is your chance to really sink your teeth into it.
This is the document that makes his case as to why he belongs in that pantheon of greatness.
Also on the program as a guest artist?
Yes, Lorraine Min. I first met her when I was guest conducting in Canada with the Victoria Symphony, and she's a leading chamber musician in the area, a great player. And one of her party pieces, I could say, is this Fourth Piano Concerto by Saint-Saëns. Now, once upon a time, Saint-Saëns, who wrote 5 piano concertos. His piano concertos were as popular as Beethoven's 5 piano concertos. And so just in recent history, people haven't been performing them as much, and I don't know why, because they're really great.
I feel like you've programmed Saint-Saëns quite a fair amount over the last few years.
Occasionally, but he gets overlooked when, in fact, he's really one of the most impressive figures of his time. And like Brahms, Saint-Saëns was looking to Beethoven to find his own voice. And so when it comes to virtuosic pianism of the time, it's very much in line with the Beethoven model. And yet with Saint-Saëns, he's able to use his Beethoven roots to create a style of music that would ultimately lay the groundwork for a French style of music that would lead to people like Debussy and Ravel. And so it's really interesting how the same roots can come up with such different fruit. The same lake and its tributary leads to a different ocean. And that's exactly what's happening here. So you've got essentially contemporaries with Brahms and Saint-Saëns, both looking to Beethoven as their spiritual and musical godfather, coming up with different directions of music making that will lead France and Germany in opposite directions for the next 100 years.
And then there's one other piece, Caroline Shaw. So and I assume that's more of a contemporary, she's a contemporary composer?
She is, I would say, one of, if not the leading female composer in the United States.
Okay.
Let's just do a quick pivot here. Offline, I was asking you if you've seen the latest Ken Burns documentary, Leonardo da Vinci. By the way, if you haven't seen it, I recommend it highly. It's brilliant. And while I was watching this documentary, I was struck by the background music. I thought, wow, who is composing that music? Because it was written in a way that would evoke sort of the Renaissance, but also had a modern flair to it to capture the idea of Leonardo da Vinci as a man of the future. And sure enough, there's a little bit of a coda at the end of the documentary showing the making of the music for this particular documentary. And sure enough, it's Caroline Shaw. And this particular piece that we're beginning the program with, called Entr'acte, is very much in line with her style, where she alludes to the sounds of music from the far distant past, like the Renaissance, but puts such a modernistic spin on it. And so in many ways, what Caroline Shaw is doing is the same thing that Saint-Saëns and Brahms were doing as they're looking to the past to find their future. And that's what brings all of these pieces together.
A Lyrical Journey, 2 chances to see this. Paramount Theater, Saturday, March 1st, Sunday, March 2nd at the Coralville Center for the Performing Arts. And as usual, if you enjoy these conversations that Tim and I have prior to the concert, prior to each of those concerts, you do an expanded
Absolutely.
version.
You need to come to these things. We have a whole lot of fun. Even at the Paramount, some people just go to Opus and buy themselves a cocktail and watch it on screen, or you can come in person on the Encore side, the other opposite side of the Paramount. And an hour before, across the street from the CCPA at West Music, we do the same thing at West Music. And I have the guest artist there. We just talk about the background of basically what we just did here, except with
only a little more, or only not quite as much time constraints.
Correct. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Excellent. Once again, Orchestra Iowa in action, March 1st and 2nd. Tickets on your website, which is
orchestraiowa.org or artsiowa.com.
Thanks, Tim.
Hey, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio most weekdays at 10:30, on demand at kcck.org/culture, or subscribe using your favorite podcast player. Watch our videos on the KCCK Facebook and YouTube channels. Our producer is Lydia Kilgore. The Culture Crawl theme is composed by Vivian Shanley. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.